Velasco, I'm in.
Received.
Sewer system. My lucky day.
I don't know what kind of alternate world this takes place in, but I'm pretty sure sewers are not this large. Also, you might notice we have a new skin. This is one of the unlockable skins you get from playing the story mode.
Multiple hostiles.
It's also a multiplayer skin, but changing the multiplayer skin you use doesn't seem to change the skin you use in single player. You can only use a select few. So it might seem like things are moving at a much nicer pace now that we're out of that first location. We cleared the second location really quickly. And this one isn't that long either.
Should be an exit ahead.
Unfortunately, it's only technically not that long, because the amount of times you will die in the last half of this game is astronomical. There are a couple design decisions in this location that are baffling, but it only gets worse from there.
Some kind of tube system. I see a machine looking like a hovercraft.
This is an AB-2 Uriel glider. Those drones will face frag you every chance they get. They spawn homing mines. Stay underwater and try to destroy it.
The part where she tells us to get underwater to fight that thing we just blew up, no, don't do that. That makes it much harder to fight. Just stay above ground and shoot at it.
Have you reached the channel?
Blocked. Floodgates in the way.
You need to find another way through.
I mean, if she really cared about Pierce, and they just didn't want you to walk face first into their game design, she would have told him, stay above water where it can't throw mines at you. Do that.
Engaging the hostile.
I used to make a joke that they only playtested the easy mode of this game, because the game is seemingly impossible and incredibly broken on any of the other difficulties. But I'm beginning to think maybe they didn't playtest it at all. For what it's worth, I really do think the environments look fine. Yes, they are boring, but
Floodgate control station.
Understood.
I mean, what would you expect them to look like in this situation? For all of its nonsense, the game is trying to be somewhat realistic with its setting.
Weapons free.
We're gonna ignore the explosive barrels. Those don't count. So really, as long as we stay down here in this little corner, we're pretty much invincible from enemy fire. So they have no choice but to rush right into us. Which would be bad in most situations, but they're so spaced apart that it doesn't really matter. I oftentimes try to follow the game's design as much as possible, but when it's blatantly obvious that the design they laid out for you is the worst way to approach a situation, you're not going to do that. That's not breaking the game, that's just having common sense. It really feels weird to someone like me to be so critical of a game. Like, I wasn't this critical of things like Mindjack. But this game is so incredibly surreal in its difficulty and its bad design decisions. Like I said, it feels like a really weird dream. That's one of the few situations where you can kill all of the enemies in a wave before they even take cover.
Almost at the control room.
I like to do that whenever I can. Something you might have not quite noticed yet is that the game does not consider your time or Pierce's time to be valuable. It gives you many objectives later in the game that either don't make sense or are incredibly boring and do not progress the story in any fashion. Again, you probably want to put those guys closer if you want to surprise the player. I often have a hard time locating the enemies that spawn in the room just behind us, because they will shoot at you from their perches. But they have a lot of area to move around, which makes locking onto them with the harpoon kind of difficult. Especially since they blend in a little. I also think it's weird that the enemies that exclusively use shotguns on ground combat suddenly have assault rifles when they try to shoot you underwater. I mean, presumably in universe they always had assault rifles. So maybe they should try to use those when they're further away. I don't know. It just seems like it would be a good decision. The Commando we're using is one of the more useful guns for a lot of reasons. The problem is that its ammo is still relatively scarce. That'll change, but only briefly before it changes back. So in the story right now, we're currently trying to find a drone that got shot down on the way to the Pescadero water plant. Keep that in mind, that's what we're doing right now. No, the game doesn't forget that objective, just keep it in mind for later. Some of the levels drag on so much that you forget what you were initially here for, and I just want to make sure that doesn't happen. Because it is important to me that you can follow the story, really. The story is one of the more interesting features about this game, in spite of it being really messy. There is a new gun in this room, and we're not going to pick it up because it's in the worst place possible.
Activating floodgate.
There's literally no reason to use this new gun. That one over there in the corner. We'll see what it is later when it's more useful.
Watch it, LT. Turret.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I really have no beef with this particular encounter. It's kinda neat. You have to advance slowly toward a turret, and if you blow a guy out of the turret, another one just gets in. Also, there's some mines that roll up at you. I think I just blew them up. Yeah, there's one. There's some mines that roll at you from nowhere. They don't come from a drone, like last time we saw them. But the basic idea of slowly approaching toward a turret until you can finally take out the guys next to it for good, it's kinda neat. I don't really have any problem with this.
Working elevator ahead.
It's not great, but it functions just fine. There's no heinously awful design in it. I just came over here to show you there's nothing over here but more grenades, which are completely useless. Really, they are. Yes, I did die here a few times, and I'm not ashamed. Look, a big box. Wonder what's in it. We can't do anything to it. I'm sure there's something inside there. What do you think it could be?
Giant mechanical crab.
When the shield powers down, hit it with everything you have. When the shield's up, stay mobile to avoid missile attacks.
Copy that.
It's another giant fucking mechanical crab. And this is far from the last time we're going to see it either. Anyway, Velasco actually gives you some decent advice here. The drone shield switches between on and off, and we want to hit it when the shield's down. Who would have guessed? The game does provide you with rocket launchers, but like I said previously, they prevent you from taking cover and make you move rather slow. Luckily, there's this one section of boxes right here where we don't need to take cover. We can just weave our way back and forth. So the problem here is that they created this whole new large area for you to fight this boss in. And Velasco implies that you want to keep moving from area to area and taking shots at it before moving again. This doesn't work. Unless you have an incredibly keen sense of timing and know exactly when it's going to drop its shield, then moving all around the map is a terrible idea. Mostly because of the grenades it launches. You can't wait in one spot for too long for it to lower its shield, because those grenades can and will kill you in one hit if they hit you directly. and on normal mode if they hit you within a 10 feet radius. I died here dozens of times on normal mode because I was trying to play the game the way it was designed to be played. But the missiles are not spread out far enough for you to actually use the strategy they lay out for you. So I found out that there's a couple of boxes, 4 boxes over here that make you functionally invincible as long as you keep moving left and right. That's how I finished this boss fight. I imagine if you're a normal person and try to play the game as they tell you to, it might be way more difficult. Actually, if you're a normal person, this is probably the point you would give up on the game entirely. Assuming you're playing easy mode. If you're playing normal mode, you probably gave up somewhere back in the first location. But yes, that's over, so at least law of pacing dictates we won't have to fight another one for at least a short while. Yeah, I died there too. That's okay. I literally cannot count the amount of times I died while practicing.
Remember, stay underwater and try to destroy it.
Again, terrible advice. Do not go underwater to fight this. Just shoot it from where you are. Now, there are a ton of ghoul scouts down here that would actually be pretty difficult to fight. But we can just swim right past them and go through the floodgate. And when we do, the floodgate closes behind us, so they can't follow.
Swimming through the floodgate.
First order of business when we get inside here is to get rid of the turret to our right. If you don't know that's there, that can really give you a bad time. And by bad time, I mean kill you in a matter of seconds. I try really hard not to grapple enemies while my head's above water, because that completely ruins the animation for it and makes it look awful. But sometimes that's your only option. Thankfully, this was not one of those times. This game does have a physics engine, which seems rather weird. It only exists for the corpses and those chairs in that control room. And a few cans here and there. It just seems weird to implement a physics engine at all for something so minor. Sometimes I forget these mines exist entirely. And not while I'm not combating them. I mean, I forget they exist while they're right in front of me. In spite of how many times I practiced a certain stage. Because they're just so dull that they're completely forgettable. Huh, this looks like a big, empty area. Huh.
Abandoned parking. Contact. Armored crab.
Stay clear of those missiles out
Yeah, it's another one. I lied. So, we're gonna try and fight this boss the way the developers intended, just for giggles. They put this garage over here with a whole ton of rocket launchers on top. And you're supposed to stay up here and shoot down at the crab. The problem being that it shoots missiles, just like the other one. And there's nowhere to move up here. Absolutely nowhere. Now, if you get really lucky, the AI of the crab will just be completely stupid and stand under an awning so that its missiles hit nothing. Usually you're not that lucky. It's also incredibly hard to aim a gun that fires really straight from this distance, even if the target is that big. Yeah, okay, so let's do this the way that works. Let's not waste a whole hour trying to make the game work the way it was intended. So surely you noticed during our last encounter with this thing that if the crab is standing under something, then its missiles are useless. And also, its missiles must be useless if it tries to shoot while you're under something, since the missiles come from overhead. So what we do is we stand right here during the whole boss fight. Just under this broken piece of concrete. Just stand right here, and its missiles do nothing. And that's how I finished this boss fight. It is really emotionally painful for me to see a game with design this broken. I love all kinds of games, even the really awful ones, because I can see how much thought went into their design and their planning and gameplay mechanics, even if it didn't turn out so hot. I don't feel like BioArt put any effort into making sure the game design made sense. On a conceptual level, they just went, yeah, that seems like it would work, and then left it like that, without actually testing to see if it added up in real life. I think that's something you could say about this game as a whole, including the story, is that their ideas just did not add up in real life. Now, with a little tweaking, sure, you know? This could easily be turned into an okay to good game, with just a few design tweaks. And that's pretty upsetting. Especially since it feels this was meant to be a magnum opus of theirs. Like they really had a lot of faith that this would be something fantastic. And they did make a few design tweaks for what it's worth.
Got a visual. Moving now.
And it's called Deep Black Reloaded. And somehow many of the design tweaks make the game worse, not better. So I really think they had absolutely no idea what they were doing. We're gonna pull out our pistol here just to show you how useless it is. It fires very slowly, and it takes 15 shots from our pistol to kill one of these walkers. I'm pretty sure I counted. Now, it may not seem like a big deal in this situation, where the enemies are slow moving, but if you try to use this pistol during any actual combat, you're gonna die. And in later stages, you need, like, specific, clairvoyant knowledge of where all the ammo boxes are. Thankfully, I have that. Not through clairvoyance, but through trial and error.